helper, and my tongue shall ring out your goodness. O Lord, open my lips, and my mouth shall declare your praise. For in sacrifice you take no delight. Burnt offerings from me you would refuse. My sacrifice, a contrite spirit, a humbled, contrite heart you will not spurn. In your goodness, show favor to Zion, rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. Then you will be pleased with lawful sacrifice, holocausts offered on your altar. Psalm 51.
Thank you, Andy. You had me worried there for a minute. I thought you were going to read from the Song of Solomon. And in mixed company, I'm not sure that we were ready for that. Kirk, do you have some guest singers who want to sing a patriotic song for us today?
If tomorrow all the things were gone I worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife, I thank my lucky stars to be living here today.
'Cause this flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away.
Well, let's follow that up with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. And thank you to all the club members who are assisting in today's meeting, Kathy Mayon and Susan for the setup and greeters, Andy for the invocation, Michael, our Sergeant at Arms, Walt and Caitlin for the teardown later on, and Renee, oh, there's Renee, our scribe, and our paparazzi, Tina. There. Thank you all. And of course, a big thank you to the AV team for putting all that together. One request that our AV team has made is when you RSVP that you're coming to the meeting, if you plan to bring a stick or a laptop or something with a PowerPoint that you want us to show during the meeting, could you let us know ahead of time? As you recall, last week we had a little bit of a three-ring circus trying to keep up with everybody's presentations that they wanted us to show, and we're trying to do that a little more organized. And I see Jim Hunt up there on the Zoom screen, I think, somewhere. Yeah. Jim, if you could unmute yourself and tell us about the Wheelchair Foundation.
No.
Jim, we can hear you, but your audio is very low. It's barely audible. I don't know why.
Well, I'll exercise the president's privilege and I'll speak for Jim. In the wheel, you'll see we're still giving out wheelchairs. And if you know of anyone who would be eligible to receive a wheelchair, please let Jim know. One more reminder about RSVPs. We're still required by Lowry's to ask for RSVPs and only allow people in the meeting who have RSVPs. So please remember to do that each week. And I don't see, is Kim here? Kim, are you here? Oh. Well, Kim, I don't know how
Richard?
many of you had a chance.
Richard, I have the announcement for Kim.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon, Rotarians. It's my pleasure today to announce the approval of a global grant international project with our partner club, the Rotary Club of Calgary and the Rotary Club of Nicaragua. Our club, with matching funds from the District 5300 and the Rotary Foundation, is contributing over $30,000 towards a $213,000 global grant. The grant will provide students with remote village training in medical, dentistry, and optometry. They go to school in the big city and then they go back into their villages as providers. Often the remote villages do not have medical, dental, and optical services as it's too remote and too far away to get to providers. The grant was initiated in 2018 in Michael Gordon's year as president and has taken a long time to work out the logistics and the approvals. Today, Rotarians, I want to thank you for your support of the Rotary Foundation and making a difference in the lives of many.
Next, as you know, one of Rotary's missions is world peace and understanding. And our district, District 5300, has had the privilege of hosting the Rotary Peace Conference for the last few years. It was actually here in Las Vegas last year. For those of you who had a chance last Saturday, this year it went online, of course, like everything else in the world. And it was an excellent group of speakers. I would imagine if it's not there yet by next week, if you go to Rotary district5300.org, the recorded version of the Peace Conference should be there, and I would commend it to your attention. We had some excellent speakers this year. Delivering with Dignity will make another round of deliveries of restaurant prepared food on November 4th. There's still time to sign up if you want to be one of the drivers. It's actually kind of a no-brainer. They send you the app to load on your phone, and it tells you what restaurant to go to, what to pick up, and then where to deliver the food. It's all contactless delivery, and so it's as safe as it can be under the circumstances. I'd also like to give you a recap on our candy delivery. Thank you to all of you who contributed 6 million pounds of chocolate that we wrapped individually and delivered to the students at Bracken's Elementary School, across the street from Richard Bryan Apartments, actually, coincidentally. And I'm patiently waiting for the commendation that I believe our club should receive from the local dentist association. Renee, were you going to make an announcement about the 25 Club raffle?
Yes, I wanted to make an announcement. We are, see the thermometer at the entrance to the meeting? You see that we are at $8,000 raised for our $10,000 goal. We have 63 tickets out of 300 left to sell. And that's for an opportunity to be drawn to win the $5,000 grand prize in 2 weeks. So I would encourage you all to encourage anyone to just go and buy 63 tickets all at once for $63 all at once, or maybe share them among your friends. $50 a ticket, and in 2 weeks we'll know who the big winner is. Besides, of course, our community that gets over 100,000 cans of food because of this fundraiser.
Thank you, Renee. And for the person that wins that $5,000, we're also going to provide a way to spend the $5,000. Janice, do you want to tell us about the? Rose, do you want to tell us about the virtual online auction?
Yes, you do. Not my rule.
So we are having the virtual auction that will run from November 19th to December 3rd, which is the night of our holiday party. And all the details are in the wheel. Thank you, everyone, for donating items that you've donated. And a special thank you to our presenting offer, the Anderson Miller Hinkleman Group of Morgan Stanley, and supporting sponsors, Thomas & Mack, Nevada State Bank. And there will also be live auction items at our pavilion. Thank you.
Thank you. And I know the weekly raffle is the high point of the meeting for some, so we'll jump right into that. For a chance to pull the joker and win the pot, half the pot, excuse me. The ticket number is, and it's somebody in the room, not one of our Zoomers this time, 848-8535. You're a Rotarian, aren't you? Well, you get the consolation prize.
Thank you. All these five. I'm gonna have to get rid of. I'm spending all day.
And for the Lowry Bucks, 8488719, and it's somebody in the room. All right, Brian. Yes. Thank you. And Kathy Mahon is reminding me you all have not sleigh bells, these are cans to collect coins for the canned food drive for the Salvation Army. So please feel free to empty out your pockets into the can on your table. Now let's move into, do we have any guests?
Can you even hear me? Oh, there we go. Yay. It is my pleasure to introduce a friend of mine since I was 16 years old, retired Chief Justice of the Nevada Supreme Court, Michael Cherry.
Thank you, Tony.
Wait a minute. Go around there, but we have a couple more elsewhere.
All right, hands up.
Stand up.
Okay, I'd like to introduce my guest. Her name is Lisa Gilikova. I met her Saturday night and within the first 30 minutes determined this is where she needed to be. She's the new Director of Development for the Goodwill.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's a privilege.
We have a member that has circulated and been invited for membership, Kate Zavala. So she will be joining us as a formal Rotarian very soon as she's inducted.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I have Lisa Motley here, and she is currently circulating for membership. This is Lisa's second visit here to the club. Welcome, Lisa.
Please don't reject me. That was really embarrassing.
How well do you know Vince Neal?
I'm getting tired. Also, I'd like to introduce Austin Wyrick. Austin has also completed his circulation through membership, and he too will be inducted along with Kate and hopefully Lisa shortly.
And I have Andrew Moran and Scott Falkenberry, both from the West Care Foundation's national office here in Henderson.
Thank you so much for allowing us the opportunity to be here today. We're excited and we look forward to partnering with Rotary International going forward. Thank you so much.
You could do worse. Welcome aboard.
I really appreciate you guys having us. This is wonderful. What a great turnout. And I appreciate being here. Thanks.
Thanks for coming out.
President Richard and fellow Rotarians, joining us as a guest on Facebook. Her name is Deborah Delanoy. I just wanted to say hello.
Hello, Deborah.
I have 3 guests from Texas, so we appreciate your singing or having the Texas tenors sing today. I've got Bill Fisher, Mario Trevino, and Wallace Reed from Rise Residential in Dallas, Texas, visiting me.
Welcome, guys. Thanks for coming out.
Hi, I'm Joan, and I have my best friend and partner, Ruth Jagosinski, as a guest today. She's been with me. We've been friends since 1983, so long time. Thank you.
Welcome, Ruth.
Thank you. Do we have any other guests?
Deb Granda, thanks for checking in. Good to have you on board.
And do we have any visiting Rotarians? No visiting Rotarians. Sidra, it's good to see you back. Okay, can we have a big round of, oops.
I just said it's great to be back.
Okay. How about a big round of applause for all of our guests and visiting Rotarians?
And Carrie Groh also just checked in online. Thanks, Carrie. Welcome aboard.
I think with that, let's have a little bit of fellowship and a little bit of eating, and then we'll move on to our guest speaker after that.
So I muted the Lowry so we can talk among ourselves if we want.
Jim, what happened to your mic?
It's working.
No, Jim Hunt.
I think he has his volume turned down on his computer.
Yeah, we haven't had that problem before, but Stu, the audio is great today. So whatever was missing last week, it's sure good to have it back.
Yeah, well, there never was a problem between us. It was Lowry's audio into the system. But yeah, they seemed, I think what happened was there was a cable that was missing last week that connects the Lowry's house sound to Zoom. And so the only thing we
Yeah.
heard was from the microphone that was on the computer.
Yeah, it sounds excellent today.
Aaron, can I ask you for
So
clarification on the global grant, just because I'm doing Scribe today? So can I just
Yep.
say that global grant was approved and we're working with Calgary and Nicaragua through District 5300 for this medical training for dentistry and optometry?
Yeah, just put $30,000 global grant working with Calgary and Nicaragua. Total amount of the global grant is $213,000.
Yeah.
You know, so our contribution is 30,000, and it's to provide training, medical training, medical, dental, and optometry training for villagers so that they can get their education and then go back to their villages.
Great. Is that a 30,000 from the district or from
Yeah.
us?
Well, from us, matched with the district and the Rotary Foundation, which the abbreviation is TRF. And so with club contribution, District 5300 and TRF, our contribution is $30,000 towards the $213,000 grant.
Wow. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I was trying to get a hold of all the numbers, and then Richard goes and says that there were 6 million pounds of chocolate, and I actually wrote that down. I realized he was joking.
I thought he was serious too.
Yeah.
I'm like, we did a dang good job.
Wow.
That'd be as big as a car.
Must have wiped out half of Costco. Jeez, can't talk today.
Hi, Gina.
Gina's on.
Hi, Dan.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Doing fine, doing fine.
Good. Nice day out, huh?
Beautiful. Beautiful. The wind is over and just a perfect temperature.
Yep.
Yeah, we had our one day of winter, so we're good.
Yeah, I'm done with that.
I was talking to my sister in Canada on Monday, and it was minus 10. And I told her it was so cold here, I had to put socks on. She's like, "Oh, you poor baby."
Rub it in.
Yeah, we were usually back in Boston every Halloween, and by Halloween there was always frost in the morning and sometimes a snowfall. So I'm happy not to be there.
It's lovely when it's lovely there, though.
So they're telling people if they kids go around to get candy, they're supposed to stand at the curb and you're supposed to throw it at them, see if they can catch it.
Is it officially outlawed? My wife was, we could turn off our lights and not turn the decorations on. And I'm like, no way. We don't have to give them. Yeah. I don't think you can give them candy or they can't be out running around. What are the rules?
Yeah, I haven't heard about anything official, but I imagine it probably is not smart.
With my oldest boys, we're constructing a PVC socially distant candy delivery system for anyone that walks in front of the house. So from the second floor, we'll be dropping bags of prepackaged candy to the people, to anyone standing in our driveway. So I'll have pictures. We'll see how that works out. But they're excited about it. So anything to get them to build something with their hands is a welcomed opportunity.
That's pretty cool. I like that.
My wife said as long as her car didn't get scratched, it was a good idea.
Yeah, we always had this little handheld device with about 20 different compartments in it, and you could open them up, and there was a M&Ms in one and Twix in another, and this sort of thing. And so we let the kids, we'd hold it up and we'd let them kind of use it like a vending machine, but it still required that you were in their face. So. I think what we did for Bracken was a lot better approach this year. I'm not really sure how they actually handle the distribution at the school. I understand that the parents are supposed to drive up with their car and pick up the food for the kids, and maybe they give them the candy at the same time.
We had all of 6 kids last year because nobody in my neighborhood turns their lights on. So I suspect that'll be more like maybe 1 or 2 kids. So I didn't buy too much candy this year because then my husband just eats it all.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good plan to me. Yeah, we usually put the decorations down in the common room at the lobby of our building, but they didn't want to do that this year. They felt it was so gloomy with the virus out there. There was nothing to celebrate. Hopefully they'll change their mind around Christmas time.
Did you see that Circa Hotel? It was packed.
Was it?
I saw some video clips of it. It looked like Oscar Goodman was there along with the mayor. She wasn't wearing a mask. He was. So didn't Sisolak just reduce the limitations on conferences? I heard that you can hold a convention as long as you're 50% or less in the capacity. Should bring some business back in town, I hope.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how that pans out because there's so many people that, I mean, how do you control it?
Yeah. From what I understand, the only significant business in the casinos are locals and people driving from California and Arizona. There's very little coming in from the airport. If they do some conventions, maybe that'll change. Heard on the news this morning, though, in the the official reports about the economy are really encouraging. You know, much larger increase in this last quarter than was expected, and unemployment claims are way down. It's hard to tell here in Nevada because so much of our economy is tied to the leisure and entertainment stuff that I don't think that's really recovered much.
Well, the Dow is now up 279, so it might recoup some losses from yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday and Monday were terrible.
Yeah. According to the analysts I heard, it was all fueled by really bad news in Europe, especially in like the highly industrialized countries like Germany and Spain and France, and it was a surprise because the Germans were supposed to be doing such a terrific job of managing it, but I'm not quite sure if they figured out why or what's going on. Just maybe the weather getting cold and combination of people getting fatigued, being locked in, and cold weather driving them indoors.
For them, it was practically over. I know my brother who lived there for 10 years was mentioning that, you know, everyone could go anywhere for many months now. You just have to wear a mask. And when we were going through our tough times and tougher times, and now starting next month, all gatherings are limited to 2 houses maximum, 10 people maximum. And daycares and other centers will be open, but everything else, but sporting events, musical events, and other events that had already been reopened are shutting down again for the month of November.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of understandable. The cold weather, you know, people are no longer outdoors. So that's what looks like we're getting ready to start again. I guess we should go back on mute. And if you guys in Lowry's can hear us, you need to turn your audio back on.
In trouble with Lowry's because they're going to want us out of here at dinner time. Senator Bryan's very abridged biography is on the front page of the Wheel. If we had run his entire biography, obviously it would have taken the entire Wheel, plus a few extra pages. Rather than go through his biography any further, I'm going to get myself in trouble here and just tell one story about Senator Bryan that I think illustrates, in my mind at least, why he's the most popular politician ever in Nevada history. If you remember, after Operation Desert Storm, local leaders thought, gosh, you know, we were so tired of being depressed about having lost the war in Vietnam. Now we won a war, let's celebrate and have a parade. So we did. And the lady that ran Senator Bryan's Las Vegas office at the time called me up and said, I saw you have a brand new convertible. Would you like to drive Senator Bryan in this parade so you didn't have to ride in the back of a pickup truck like everybody else? And I said, absolutely, I'd be honored. We got to the where the parade staged, and I could see that we were behind a number of military vehicles. And there was Governor Miller sticking out of the gun turret of a Humvee, two vehicles ahead of us, and one vehicle ahead of us was Senator Reed sticking up out of the gun turret of a Humvee, and then us, and then the remainder of the congressional delegation behind, riding in the back of pickup trucks. And as we made our way down Fremont Street, which was still a street in those days, it hadn't yet turned into a pedestrian mall, the police were doing an excellent job of keeping the crowds back. And so the vehicles ahead of us all proceeded along in fair order. And as we got up to where the crowd was, we were just swarmed. I mean, the police could not hold the people back. But sitting in the driver's seat, a funny thing, I could hear everything that was going on. And so I could hear every single person that was swarming the car yelling, "Hello, Dick. How are you, Richard?" And unlike any other politician I've ever known, instead of waving and saying, "Oh, how are you?" or "Hi, sir," or some sort of generic greeting, Dick Bryan greeted every single person by name. And there was one, I think, whose uncle had a feed store up in Elko, and Dick even asked him how the feed store was doing. I mean, it's just unbelievable how personable Senator Bryan is. So without further ado,
You know, Lyndon Johnson used to say when he got an effusive introduction like that, he said, you know, my daddy would have loved it. He said, and my mother would have believed it. Yeah, so I'm pleased to be here today. I was thinking as we were talking at the table there that my first appearance before Rotary was 70 years ago. I was a Boy Scout that had gone to the National Jamboree in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, and I was in effect on the circuit, as it was, describing the experience I'd had as a 13-year-old Boy Scout going to the Jamboree. So this is not my first rodeo with you as well. We've had a chance to exchange comments from time to time. I was looking at the paper, and I hope that there's no connection, but this is the day in 1929 when the stock market collapsed. I hope that my attendance here does not augur something of that magnitude, but I know the market is a little rocky these days. Let me talk a little bit about our history, and we'll do it in the Cliff Note version and leave it open for some question. I mean, other than the indigenous people that have lived in our state for many centuries, really, our story begins with the conquest of Mexico in 1529 by the Spaniards. They acquired, in effect, all of what was then Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, Utah. And so we were at that time, you know, a Spanish colony. And then in 1821, Mexico got its independence from Spain. So now we're part of Mexico. And then we had a little dust up, as you recall, the Mexican-American War, you'll recall that. And we prevailed. And there was a treaty called the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. And in effect, Spain, strike that, Mexico ceded basically most of the Southwest, California, Nevada, Arizona, Utah, New Mexico, a sliver of Wyoming, and a sliver of Colorado. And that became part of the United States. And initially it was all part of the New Mexico territory. And then it was divided a couple of years later. The southern part was Arizona territory, that's Clark County. And the other part was part of the Utah territory. Okay, fast forward, it's 1859, the Comstock Lode. The riches that were generated by that became internationally famous. Virginia City, the queen of the Comstock, attracted people from all over the world. Jenny Lind, the Swedish Nightingale, performed in Virginia City. It was the toast of the town, and people came by the thousands. In 1861, Congress was persuaded to create the Nevada Territory. The Nevada Territory did not include Clark County. 3 years later, on October 31st, as we all know, I know we've changed the date that we celebrate that. I have to tell you that I voted against that, but I understand a 3-day weekend is helpful. I got that, but October 31st became Clark County was not included in that territory. And then with the 1864 admission of the Union, there's a story behind that. People said it was because of the riches of the Comstock. I know it's an ugly word in this very ugly political season, but early in the year, Lincoln thought he would not be reelected. We have pandemic fatigue today. In 1864, the war had raged on for 3 years. The casualties were humongous, humongous. Over 600,000 dead. This is at a time when the population is a fraction of what it is today. And so the thought was that Lincoln is not going to be reelected. So we need to move very quickly and get an additional 3 electoral votes. And that's the genesis of what drove Nevada's early admission. I think Shakespeare would use a colorful expression as a state we were, quote, ripped untimely from the womb. We were not, by any historical standards, had the population. Well, lo and behold, we didn't do 3 electoral votes. A guy by the name of Sherman took Atlanta, and that was a huge one. And as he marched to the sea, he destroyed and laid waste to everything between Atlanta and Savannah, and then moved north. So Lincoln would have been all right. Tidbit of history. Because they were so eager to get Nevada officially recognized that they could participate, the longest telegram ever sent up to that time were the articles that Congress needed to act upon to admit the state. Okay, the Comstock Lode, the big 4, Flood, Fair, Mackey, and O'Brien. For those of you who've been to San Francisco, does the Fairmont register with you at all? That's one of the Comstock Kings. Have you been where the cable car turns around there, right there on Market and Powell, if I recall correctly? That's the Flood building. Okay. The only one of the big 4 that ever did anything for Nevada was John Mackey and his family. For those of you that are familiar with the University of Nevada, Reno campus, the Mackey School of Mines, the Mackey Science Building, the Mackey Stadium, the old stadium, not the current one, and they were the beneficiaries. And his son, Clarence, is the one that really did that. Another tidbit, one of the daughters married Irving Berlin. That's a name I'm sure that's familiar to all of you. Well, the glory days of the Comstock did not last. I mean, the great riches played out, and the population declined precipitously. In the 1900 census, Nevada had only 42,000 residents. Now, there's a storyline that you're as familiar with today in 2020 as the Nevadans who lived in our state in 1900. Nevada was a single industry state. Some of this, I think, may be resonating as we're talking about some of the challenges that we face in our own economy. And when mining played out, there really wasn't much else. Some agriculture, very limited, got a little bit of the boost in World War I because Goldfield and Tonopah, if you've ever made that beautifully scenic drive between Las Vegas and Reno, it's no need to catch the color of the leaves changing in New England. I mean, there's a couple trees along the road where you can actually see leaves change. I just drove up there this past week or so. You have to look hard, but it's there. The social mores in America were changing, and the legislature decided to create more liberal grounds for divorce and shorten the residency. The lawyers in this room will know what I'm talking about, but presumably, in order to get a divorce, you have to be a resident. And it was, frankly, pretty transparent. Now, initially, with this shortening residence, Pat McCarran, the airport guy, our senior senator, McCarran met America's sweetheart at the airport, at the station, Mary Pickford. Took her to Minden, and she established grounds for divorce and became, all of a sudden, Nevada, Reno in particular, became the divorce capital of America. Now, initially, the lawyers were just so outraged at this transparent residency that they were going to file some kind of a complaint against McCarran. But you know, once in a while you do find a smart lawyer. I hope all of you in this room have been fortunate enough to have found one. Justice Cherry certainly was one. And They said, wait a minute, guys, wait a minute, hold on, guys, no women practicing at that time. Wait, hold on, guys, this could be a real opportunity for us. So they rapidly retreated, embraced, and of course, then Reno became the divorce capital of America. It's now the Great Depression, and Nevada is still, what can we do to diversify our economy, you know? And a guy from Tonopah introduced a bill to create legalized gaming. Nevada became a pariah state. We shortened the residency period even more. It's so long. When I was a young lawyer, there were still uncontested divorces that really supported many of the lawyers in town. And the tricky question was the residence, because in point of fact, mostly there were women, not always, of course, and almost literally outside the front door to the courtroom, they had their bag packed, ready to head back to wherever it was. Justice Cherry knows. So the question would be, Mrs. Smith, would you state your name? Okay. You are a resident of Clark County. I am indeed. And Mrs. Smith, is it your intention to make Las Vegas, Clark County, Nevada, your one and only permanent home for at least an indefinite period of time? You got it? And that's the way it was. I handled many, many of those. Just one other story, have nothing to do with history. So the judges, with the exception, of course, of Justice Cherry, are oftentimes behind the times. And so some of the women that I got divorced, they weren't stars or anything, but they were dressed to the nines and they wore a pantsuit. A judge would not accept that that was a proper decorum to enter the courtroom. And so at the law library, which was right next to the courtroom, Justice Cherry, remember them, the librarian had it look like kind of a muumuu. And so I can tell you many times, I have wrapped my client around with that muumuu, and that qualified as a dress, and she was admitted to get in, and we got the divorce. So that's a little local history for you. Well, anyway, the Great Depression came and gaming. We were a pariah state. You know, it was, and then the dam came. We all know that story. But we still were looking for more of industry. And when the war came, then we all know what happened here. Well, actually, the dam, of course, was huge. It was absolutely huge. But interesting enough, they did not want Las Vegas to be the city where the dam was located. Boulder City, which in my time was a federal enclave. Not until 1960 did Boulder City elect its own officials. And Bob Broadbent, a name that some of you may recall, Bob ran, was the first mayor in Boulder City. It's still a delightful place, and some of the old buildings are still there. But the war was very helpful. One, the air base. Very, very big for the economy at the time. In 1940, Las Vegas, the population was about 8,500, and it just boomed. And BMI, that's where my father worked until he passed the bar in 1943. And it was absolutely huge. The productive capacity of this country of magnesium, they produced enough for the war effort and the civilian economy. And BMI actually closed before the end of the war. They had produced so much. So what to do with those buildings? Well, not to get into contemporary politics, McCarran was a guy that he was tough. I mean, you may love him, you may hate him, but nobody ever tangled with McCarran, and he got those buildings. They're still there. You know, in my time, there was American Perchlorate was there, Weco, Stauffer Chemical. Some of you will recall those days. And in effect, he was able to get that. There's another cute story about McCarran. State Senator Jim Gibson was one of the legislative icons in my time. His son graces the county commission. Bryn is his name, done an extraordinary job. And the grandson worked in our office when we were with Lionel Sawyer and Collins. Just a marvelous family. Very smart guy. Very smart guy. The gene pool is very deep. I went to school with his younger brother. He got an appointment through McCarran to Annapolis. graduated Vegas High School, I think, class of 43. And during the war, they accelerated those at the top, whatever it was, 15, 20%, and put them through in 3 years. Because, nobody knew anything about the atomic bomb other than, the scientists that are working with it in Los Alamos. So we thought, the war in the Pacific may go into 46 or 47. The state senator, who I was privileged to serve with, the academy was not going to graduate him because his eyesight had failed. Now, let me tell you that McCarran made the academy aware, probably not as tactfully as I'm discussing, but he said the academy appropriation cannot be heard until we resolve this issue with Midshipman Gibson. True story. He was commissioned. Yeah, he was commissioned. So good, bad, or indifferent, McCarran was the guy you didn't want to tangle with. He was a very powerful figure. Well, the economy changed dramatically. After World War II, tourism, gaming, call it what you like, search. There were several factors that made that possible. Number one, airline travel had emerged. The highways were better, not the interstate until the mid to late 50s. And the other thing that made the Southern California traffic, when I was a youngster, the work week was 5.5 days, 2.5 days. The courthouse here in Las Vegas was open until noon. My father was a lawyer, and they had what they call, Justice Cherry, law in motion, but 5.5 days. The work week in America shortened to 5 days. So if you're from Southern California, you get off work Friday, you've got all day Saturday here, you've got part of Sunday, you didn't have quite the traffic you did now. That was very helpful. And there was also something was happening across the country. Illegal gambling operations existed throughout the country. Whether you're talking about Hot Springs, Arkansas, or Boise, Idaho, or Steubenville, Ohio. And the reform movement, in effect, swept these cities and they closed down. The old protocol was the local sheriff and the DA had said, the election is this year, I've got to close you down. But, once this thing's over, you're going to open up. Well, those days were over. And so in my youth, just many, many people that came to town had been in other jurisdictions throughout the country where gaming was perfectly legal and they understood the game. You understand the legacy that brought. There were people who had connections. I don't know whether it was turning a blind eye, but there was a social compact that even kind of as a kid I got it. And that was, look, if you don't screw up here, if you keep your nose clean, we're not inquiring about what you did in the background. Initially, a gambling license was the same as getting a license to operate a hardware store done by the city, the county. Then gradually, Nevada began to regulate it at the state level, but it was done through the tax commission. Alan Bible, who was senior United States Senator from Nevada for a number of years, and he and my dad were on the debate team at the University of Nevada during the late 20s and early 30s. The question was having the ability to collect taxes. Did you have the ability to inquire into the background of an applicant? Because the statute was silent on that. Alan Bible, as the Attorney General, opined that because you had the ability to issue the license, you also had the ability to inquire into the background. That was a very fortuitous, it was an initial step. Fast forward, we get to 1955, and Charlie Russell, who I frankly got to know when I was governor, he was living in town there, just a grand guy to have lunch with, big Republican. I'm a big Democrat. No problem. We have lunch from time to time, and he'd regale me with the stories. And he created the Gaming Control Board, but the tax commission still was the one that issued the licenses, suspended, revoked, that sort of thing. And in 1959, Grant Sawyer, now speaking as a Democrat, that was a good year for Democrats. I don't know about this next week. We're not going to get into that. But in 1958, it was a year that rained victories all over the country. The Democrats picked up 16 new members in the United States Senate. And for me, voting for the first time, a little story here, I turned 21 on July 16th. In those days, the primary was in the spring. And so I could not get registered here in Clark County. So I went to Washoe County. Statute of limitations is run. I'm not afraid to say that, after all, I was a student at the University of Nevada, so that gave me plausible deniability if there's ever a question as to why did you vote in Washoe County. And Howard Cannon defeated a two-term incumbent, Molly Malone, Grant Sawyer, who was like 39. He did not have the appearance or personal charisma that JFK would have, but he clearly represented a younger generation and he was elected to the governorship, and it was a great year for Democrats. And there was a guy that had the Ford dealership in Reno that was a decent guy, Forrest Lovelock, and Pete Echeverria. Those of you that know anything about colorful Basco lawyers, Pete Echeverria was it. God, he could tell more damn stories, had more personality in his little finger than most of us have in our entire body. And he defeated Forrest, and he was the Democrat, and he later became chairman of the Gaming Commission. So that's a little bit up to the present. So, all right, we had a significant downturn the year that I ran for governor in 1982, and frankly, it helped me. I ran against a good guy, Bob List, incumbent, and boy, we were really a world of hurt. And gosh, tourism then as now is, and there had been a tax shift, which we still have, so that most of the revenue comes in through the sales tax, and the tax shift had shifted from a dependence on property taxes, which is more stable. But sales tax, the story. People stop coming, the cash register doesn't ring, and sales taxes are plummeting. And so that was a serious issue for us. And when I was elected governor, created some economic development and tourism. But that's another story. It's not about me. The Great Recession. You know what happened to the Great Recession? The point that I'm making is that throughout the history of Nevada, we have been reliant on a single industry. That's not any different today, although the numbers have expanded enormously. And we have done a lot to diversify, but the growth of the tourism industry has grown exponentially. So we're still heavily dependent. And that's, of course, where we are now with sales tax collections plummeting, and the state budgets are constricted, and you know all about that. So that's kind of the soup to nuts, Cliff Note version. I'm sure I missed out several decades, and I open up for any questions you've got. Yeah, thank you so much. Please. Yeah.
So I have a quick question that's actually a twofold question for you. You allegedly, supposedly were a former governor here. Yeah. And so would you want the current governor's job right now?
No.
I had a feeling that was going to be the answer.
Boy, oh no. Look, whether you agree with him or not, and I know there'll be people here that are supportive of that, he's got a hell of a tough job. He's got a hell of a tough job. He'd be the first, I think most fair-minded people would say it's not his fault, it's part of a national pandemic. But again, it points out our vulnerability, even within the state of Nevada. For those that you travel a good bit, Reno has been much less impacted. Obviously, gaming is a much smaller part of their economy than Las Vegas, but they are much less. Las Vegas has been hit hard, although we've done a lot of good things to diversify the economy, a lot of good things, but gaming and tourism is the mainstream that drives our economy. Please.
Well, and you don't have to answer part two, but do you think our current governor is doing a good job?
Well, let me tell you.
Loaded question.
No, let me tell you. The time I was probably in the 8th grade, everybody else wanted to be, a cowboy or something. I always wanted to be governor. I wanted to be governor. Yeah, and I made it pretty clear. Now, look, every once in a while you can catch lightning in a jug. And I did. Election night, 1982, the campaign headquarters was on Maryland Parkway in Huntridge, the Huntridge subdivision. That is between Charleston and Oakey. And our headquarters there, and I looked across the street and there was 1141 Maryland Parkway, which was my boyhood home. And I thought, you know, dreams can come true. And they did that night for me. Please, questions?
Well, before we get into questions, we need to call out Renee. It's apparent, Renee, that you don't get to do math because there are not 63 tickets left, but 58. So we've sold 5 more tickets. Congratulations.
Sounds great.
That looks like Carolyn, yeah.
Well, Senator, Governor, this is not exactly a question, but I campaigned for this man in
You did?
1966, the first
Yeah,
time,
yeah.
pushing a baby in a carriage and pregnant with another one. And I have been, as a Republican, I did that. And we have been supporting this man, tried to get him to run again. But this is what we need in the state of Nevada, more Richard Bryan. So thank you for everything.
Thank you.
How very, very bipartisan of you.
Well, you know, I mean, it was far less polarized. I mean, now it's so polarized and, you know, you can blame this side or that side, but it is the absence of civility in our discourse that I find so troubling. We are not going to agree. I can recall I used to have town hall meetings. I love the personal interaction, as you might have gathered. And there were people that, you know, were not altogether happy with me. But, you know, I always just say, you remember Mark Twain spent the early years of his life in Nevada, wrote a book about it, Roughing It. And Mark Twain once said, if 2 people agree on everything, one of them is unnecessary. And I would say to the sir, I don't think you're unnecessary. I hope you would accord me the same. Jenny, tend to quiet things down. Please, question.
Yeah, Senator?
Yes.
I'm another one of those Republicans that worked to help him
Well,
get
thank you.
reelected.
Thank you.
And did that a number of years ago, but it was my honor. Just what, you'd had so many great experiences. You talked a lot about the history of Nevada, but what are one or two of the fun experiences you had as either governor or senator or district?
Oh God, there were so many of them. I loved the job. Now, Nevada was much smaller then. It was before cable TV, before social platforms. So I liked the back and forth. I went to every parade that I could. I love those. The parade in Hazen generally consisted of 4 cars, but I was there. And we would go around 3 or 4 times to give the people. That was a lot of fun. One of the real fun events on the campaign, Don Carano, a name that's known to many of you, the El Dorado, and they used to have on Columbus Day, bite my tongue, Indigenous Peoples Day. Please. I hope this won't be reflected. I'll never invite it again. But I still think of as Columbus Day, which the Italians celebrate, particularly in northern Nevada. And so they had a grape stomping contest. Visualize a platform with a barrel, just about that, with grapes, not just the vines and all. And I thought, boy, there's a lot of people here. I said, Bonnie, you and I are going to enter that contest, but you'll be stomping the grapes. Okay. Yeah. So I said, there's got to be some secret to this thing. So I talked with some of the old Italians. I said, what's the secret? Said, the secret is at the bottom of the barrel, there's a screen. And you want to make sure that you do this because the twigs will interrupt the flow of the juice, and the winner is the one that gets the most juice in the bottle. We won. Bob Cashel, who easily outweighed Bonnie by 150 pounds, was next to us, but we won. Anyway, that was kind of, there's a lot of fun things that I can, unbelievably fun things that happen. Please. Jerry's got something there.
Governor, we know each other a long time.
We have indeed.
And I remember being impressed by one of your prior year talks, and you didn't talk about it today, but one of the things that really kick-started Las Vegas was the killing of Bugsy Siegel, and
Yes.
you didn't mention that.
Well, Bugsy Siegel, I mean, the Bugsy Siegel did not invent Las Vegas. He came here and acquired the El Cortez in about 1941 with Meyer Lansky, another one of the good old boys, and they did very, very well. And they sold out at quite a profit. And a guy that was with a Hollywood Reporter was the one that really had the idea. And the strip came from the Hollywood strip. So that's how the name came. And so this was, right after the war, and it was a different thing. Although Las Vegas has always had themed resorts, Last Frontier, Western, the Old West and Modern Splendor, the El Rancho, but Flamingo was something totally different. The pools were always out front facing the highway, but this was now kind of enclosed around a cluster. Well, anyway, Bugsy took things over, and opening night was a disaster, bad weather, and he was the guy in charge, and they took him out of the picture. I think he was with his girlfriend, Virginia Hill. Does that sound right to you? And so the boys came in, and they were there. I mean, this would be all the names that you know. In fact, tell you one story. I never really had any contact except for some reason I grew up here in Vegas, but did not. 1966, I'm appointed public defender. The first thing I need to do is to find an office space. That was not a recession, but a dip in the economy. There was a lot of commercial space downtown. On 300 block of 3rd Street, there was a brand new building. It's called the Title Insurance and God, everything was brand new, and they go all kinds of tenant improvements. I recommended that to the county commission. They rejected me. John Mowbray was my sponsor. God, he had a hair trigger temper, but God, he was everywhere. If there was an Irish organization, John Mowbray, he was a devout Catholic, went to mass every day. So, and he was the guy that really pushed. I was 28 years old. There's considerable risk here. And so it was the following day in court. God, he's worked up. Remember, I'm appointed. God, today, he thundered. What the hell was going to happen? And then he circled his hand, pointing upstairs to the county commissioner, and they're playing games with this young man. And if they don't straighten out, we're not going to get that $200,000 grant. I thought, I'm over. The backstory to that, I was being pushed to go where Derek's place is, the D. And it was an older building. It was called the C.H. Baker building. It was not a gaming casino at that time. And the boys at the Desert Inn, I found out, own that property. Mo Dalitz, Allard Rowan, Ruby Colod, and they were putting pressure on the county commission. They were guys from, some of them had been from Cleveland with the Purple Gang, and so they had quite a history. They never approached me. I think they thought, this guy, we don't know what this berserk young guy might do. And so the commission was trying to force me into there. When Mowbray let loose, let me tell you, they wilted. And the next meeting, they approved my location. That was the only one. Other brought me into contact. Governor Miller's father, Ross Miller, was the poobah at the Riviera Hotel. There had been a dealer on a crap table that had been palming chips, that is, okay. And I think maybe a little vigilante justice may have been administered, but anyway, the amount of the chips stolen was only about $70. So it was a misdemeanor, not a felony. So this case went to the justice court, and he was convicted. In those days, it was direct appeal to the district court. I mean, I was always the low man on the totem pole. For those of you that were Bowery Boys fan, I was the Hunts Hole of my time, if you've got that, okay? And so Ted Marshall said, you handle that case. I said, my God, this is they searched him at the hotel. No chips were found on him. When they got him to the jail, my God, they just rained everywhere. So anyway, I got a call from Ross Miller. You understand your end of the case. He said, but you can count the hotel. God, I had a first time in Las Vegas I'd ever gone to one of the gourmet places. I mean, I'm a hamburger, hot dog kind of a guy. It was very nice. And so I told Ross, I said, Mr. Miller, what I'm going to need is somebody that knows how crap table, the first, second, third base, and each has one looks at the other and the eye in the sky and all that. So, and I said, I also need a crap table brought into the courtroom. The morning of trial, it's the old courthouse, Mike, and boy, on those tile floors, you've got two dollies. This crap table, we've all seen it on this cavernous casino floor. This was in a narrow aisle. When they came, I said, what the hell is going on? This is a misdemeanor. This is a misdemeanor. $500 fine, 6 months in jail. That's it. But so they began to follow the trial. And so George Franklin, a guy that never saw a camera he did not like, and Mowbray was not adverse. So the question was, would you guys object to having a camera in the courthouse? Mr. Franklin, do you have an objection? None whatsoever, sir, none. Mr. Bryan, oh, no, Your Honor, I will plead by all means. And so this was a story that was on the front page of but in effect, some of the boys that were representing old school interests were involved. Just the opposite of the Henry Fonda classic, the 12 Angry Men. Do you remember that one? Where they're all ready to convict, and he takes them around. The first ballot was 11-1 to acquit. A guy by the name of Ray Malizer, some of you may remember, he was in real estate. Ray Malizer was the foreman of the jury. He persuaded them all to convict. He said, look, if I booked the pants and the evidence and everything, he said, look, I can show you how this happened. He said, if I can show you how you wouldn't find those chips the first round, but when you take your pants off, they fall out. We got a conviction. I still can't believe it. Yeah. Frank Nicholas Frobby. I used to see him years later. Yeah. Please, last question. I guess we got to. Oh, wait. Can we give Justice Cherry a question? I don't want to make anybody late.
I just wanted to say that you were a great mentor to me because you were a public defender and I followed in that office. And you were great. And when you were on the Senate, you used to come back and we were in the Sporting House together when I was running in 1998. And you taught me either to run scared or unopposed. And the first time I ran scared, the other 3 times I ran unopposed. And also you taught me that if there are 2 or more voters at a light post, why am I not included in that conversation?
Yes.
So that's but you were a fabulous, I'm one of the Democrats who supported the whole time, by the way, but I do thank the Republicans. But I just wanted to ask one thing. Of all the positions you held, what was your favorite and why?
What the favorite position I held? Yeah. Well, I'd always wanted to be governor. God, that was good. It was the first time since I've been in the Army that I had government housing. Okay. All right. And this was much better housing. It really was. Yeah, it really was. I just loved it. And it was a house for Nevadans. The Republican Women's Club said, well, Governor, can we still meet here on Saturday? I said, of course you can meet here. It wasn't a partisan, hey, it belonged to the people in the state of Nevada. By the way, George Dickerson's father was the first governor to live in the mansion, and his younger daughter, I don't know, I had more, was actually born in the mansion, June. So we always had her picture up there. But George Dickerson became the DA here. His brother, Harvey Dickerson, 3-term attorney general. Another brother, Denver, was Speaker of the House. So it's quite a prominent family. And to speak to the time in this, George Dickerson and my father ran against each other in the Democratic primary for district attorney in 1954. His wife was my brother's kindergarten teacher at John S. Park. George Dickerson beat my father, never affected the friendship. They remained friends, and in later years, I got to know George even better. Thank you so much for all your, thank you.
Senator, we present a Share What You Can award to each of our speakers. We'll be making a donation to the USO Community Service Program in your name.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you.
So if you're planning to vote early in person, you've got today and tomorrow. I'll adjourn the meeting so you can get straight to a polling place.
Hi, everyone. Have a good day. Good week.
See you guys.
Take care, all.
Bye,
everybody. Great speaker.
See you next week. Yeah, that was really fun. I'm
Yeah.
always learning more and more about where I'm living.
Good
job.